All right, everybody, welcome back. Well, I thought I would talk about the Acolyte again, episode 5. I said I wasn't going to do this until the end of the season and kind of wrap it all up, but since to me the first 4 episodes didn't really go that well, I watched episode 5, and I have to say I enjoyed that episode. That episode was pretty well spot on for me. I know not everybody agrees with my assessment, and that's fine. You don't have to like it. But for me, I did like it. I actually enjoyed it. It was fun. We had a lot of fighting, a lot of lightsabers. That's why we watch Star Wars. I will admit my original prediction of who the masked villain was going to be. I said Anastasia, and I have to say, as the episode started, I was watching other videos, and everybody was predicting it was going to be Chimera. And I thought, yeah, it was kind of obvious it might be him. Seemed like he's a little bit too. But then just as the episode started, I thought about it. It popped in my head. It's got to be Chimera, because he was the only one that knew May was not going to go kill Tanaka. And when May did get there, Tanaka was dead. Her boss would not have killed him had she, because May was supposed to go kill him. So he would not have jumped ahead and killed Tanaka if he didn't know she wasn't going to do it. So it dawned on me right when the episode started for some reason. It's got to be Chimera. And sure enough, it was him. But I'll admit it, I predicted wrong. But I do want half credit because I did figure it out before I found out who it was officially. But as far as Chimera goes, he kind of comes off as this kind of a doofus, during the first 4 episodes. And then when you really see him, he did show a little bit of a sign there when he kind of straightened May out a little bit and kind of jacked her up. Like, okay, this guy knows something, but there was one scene, he stuck his arm out, you could see his forearm. I was like, that looks like Popeye's arm or something coming out of there. So I knew it was probably going to be him, and sure enough it was. And there goes my dog. She found me. My whole life is spent dogs following me, and unless I call them, and then they don't want to seem to come. But anyway, like I said, this episode to me was good. Chimera, give me a second. We'll continue. I'm going to leave this in because this is just part of what happens around here. My mother passed away several years ago, and I inherited her schnauzer. And sometimes I think my mother was reincarnated and put in the body of that dog because she acts a lot like her. She was spoiled a lot by my mother back in the day. So anyway, I thought he did a good job, Chimera, the guy that played him, switching gears and suddenly becoming a villain, and then the way he speaks to the Jedi, kind of that low, even tone voice. Kind of reminds me of like the Grand Inquisitor or Thrawn, that we've seen, where people just kind of speak in that very proper English. They don't raise their voice. They just kind of like, rrr. To me, that's very good, creepy villain material. And I thought he did that pretty well. He tried to throw a little humor in there when we were talking about why make your identity known. He's like, well, I did wear a mask, Okay. So it was okay. It was kind of funny, but and I thought even the dialogue between the actors this time was much better. It was just good to me. I just enjoyed it. It was a fun watch, Hopefully they'll continue this pattern throughout the rest. We'll just have to wait and see. But I thought they deserved some credit. I wanted to give credit where credit's due. I didn't really like the first 4 episodes, but I did like this one. I thought they deserved a shout out for that. And I wondered, because I was watching other Star Wars channels before, and they were just bashing this show hardcore. There's a bunch of them out there just either hating this show, and then you got a few out there that just love it no matter what. And so I'm probably that guy in the middle that kind of maybe just tell you how it is. So I will look to a couple of the bigger Star Wars channels right after the episode was over. I watched it as soon as it dropped. And then I clicked on YouTube, and there was some watch parties, and there was other people talking. They were getting together talking about it immediately. And I was wondering, do these folks feel the same way I did? Maybe they were happy with the episode, and they were not. They just hate. And I'm not going to call out who they are or anything like that, because I like the channels they got. I usually enjoy watching them. It just seemed to me like they're determined to hate this show no matter what. And it could be they were turned so against it in the beginning that there's no coming back. Because half the season was over after 4, and wasn't that great. So maybe they're all in. Now some of these bigger channels too, I think some of these guys make a living doing this on YouTube with the multi-million followers and whatnot. So, I guess they get paid to be a little more interested in it than I am. I'm just a big fan of Star Wars, like I said earlier, from a kid. I was there when Luke hit the big screen for the first time back in the day. So anyway, but I did watch the 2 different channels, and they both hated the show, but for different reasons. And I thought the reasons were interesting. One didn't like it because he felt like the lore has been broken, the canon has been broken, because there's a Sith involved now, and Phantom Menace, which takes place 100 years after Acolyte, Coyote Mundi says the Sith have been extinct for a millennia, which is 1,000 years. Now, in their defense, we don't know if the message of this Sith is ever going to make it back to the Jedi Temple yet. They may never find out that this guy was even a Sith, because when the episode ended, they still haven't phoned it in. Basically, they are on the ship getting ready to leave. So you would think the first thing Soul's going to do is, "Hey, there's a Sith out here. We got some problems. All hands on deck." But in their defense, he has not done that yet, and they may not. Something may happen to where they can't get the message back, and then in which case canon has not been broken and everything should be fine for the most part. There's still some issues with some of their storytelling, but that would eliminate that problem. But it would seem very difficult for this message to not get back to the Jedi Temple yet. So we'll see. And some people may wonder, okay, so there's a little blip in the canon. What's the big deal? The reason it's a big deal is because Star Wars is a big franchise. It's huge. And it has a huge fan base. Very dedicated fan base. Hardcore fan base. People who not just watched the movies George Lucas put out, but also read books and comics and studied the lore. And I mean, they are totally invested in Star Wars and they know it all. And then for Disney to come along and just chop it up wherever they see fit and change it, those fans feel like they're being totally disrespected. And, so that's not good to do to your fan base. And it's very, to me, because when they spend $4 billion on a franchise with all of its backstory, the reason that franchise was worth so much money is because of all those fans. People like us, people that, from the middle of the road, really invested fans to the really hardcore fans, we're the ones that makes that franchise worth so much money. If Star Wars didn't have all these fans, George Lucas wouldn't have been able to sell the Star Wars name for a nickel. If it wasn't for the fans willing to pay for it, what's it worth? Nothing. So when the fans feel disrespected, that's when you're going to start having problems. Not a good business model. So somebody at Lucasfilm or whatever, they need to make sure they have a timeline of all the canon, all the lore, all the movies. Put little notes in there, what happened, when and where, and just write your stories based on this timeline that's already established, and you'll save yourself a ton of problems. Another thing they did wrong for me with the Acolyte, which set people off from the very beginning. Again, disrespecting the fans, doing interviews and press conference or whatever about this show and telling them, oh yeah, it's going to upset our male fan base, which is mainly male, and they kind of like described the male fan base of Star Wars as being kind of toxic and like, did you just insult me? I mean, come on. I just paid. I mean, So anyway, insulting your fan base is not a good PR move. Amanda Stenberg, the actress that plays May and Osha, she even put out a music video, which some have kind of described as a diss track to the fan base. It does seem to me like maybe she's taken some of the criticism of the show too personally. To me, not liking the show doesn't mean you don't like the actor or the actress. Because she did some things in this episode that were pretty good to me. And she did, even her skills in the fighting scene, she's showing that she can do those things. She can perform those moves, which takes a lot of training and a lot of hard work. So I don't think anybody dislikes her personally. It's just they don't like the show. But, and a good example of not associating an actor so much with the show, if you've ever seen Battlefield Earth, now I love John Travolta. I think he's a great actor. He's put out some great movies. Usually, anything he does is usually pretty good, except Battlefield Earth. That movie was a train wreck that crashed into a dumpster fire. It is a horrible movie. But it's not because of him. It's just sometimes the source material's not there. The people, because once I've never made a movie, but I know there's a lot more into it besides just delivering your lines. There's a lot of people behind the scenes that got to put that whole thing together and edit it and cut it and produce, and make it to where it's something you want to watch. And the material has to be there. And Battlefield Earth is a horrible movie. But and I can only stomach about 20 minutes of it. In my defense, I have not watched the whole thing. I flipped on it one day and I'd heard how bad it was, and it was that bad. So hopefully Miss Stenberg won't be, she'll learn to maybe let some of the criticism roll off and not take it so personally. It's not her, it's the show. It's just the way it's done. But again, episode 5, they're making a turn, so it could turn for me. Who knows? The other people in the other channel that didn't like the show, again, big channel, a lot of followers, they didn't like it. They were making fun of the fight scene. So, they were picking apart every move in that fight scene. How, well, that could never happen, or you couldn't, if you held your hand that away, there's no way to actually have pushed them that, there was trying to break down the actual realistic moves. And I hate to burst anybody's bubble, but if you watch any action movie, there is no fight scene that's ever been filmed in an action movie that's realistic. It just, you can't send a guy into a building where there's like 50 guys waiting to kill you, and they're branched off in different rooms, maybe 10 in this room, 12 in that room, and he just goes through and just mows his way through all of them. Chop, 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 chop. He's just taking them out left and right. One punch, knocked him out. Boom, knocked out. Bam, knocked out, I've seen movies where a guy gets flipped over the shoulder and he's out. He's out of the fight. Now, if you get flipped over somebody's shoulder, it doesn't take them out of the fight. It takes them out of that moment, but it doesn't. When I was younger, I used to study martial arts and fighting styles and this sort of thing. And I actually had a guy had me in a chokehold from behind, and I was able to reach around far enough and grab him by the back of the head right down here. And I used my body to flip him over my shoulder. But it didn't knock him out. It got him off my back and out of my throat, that was the goal. But we still had some work to do after that. It wasn't over. You'll see this scene a lot. There's a bad guy's face here, and the hero like that, knocked out. It just doesn't work that way. So if you're going to pick apart this fight scene that hard, well, then you need to pick apart every Chuck Norris movie, Bruce Lee movie, Jason Statham movie, whoever, Jean-Claude Van Damme, Jet Li, pick them all apart because they're all the same. John Wick, come on. There's no one guy out there that can just murder hundreds of people and not and survive that. I mean, somebody's going to land that lucky shot eventually. It's just fun. It's entertainment. It's something we watch to have a good time. You know, it's kind of an escape. So don't take it that seriously. Again, I'm not trying to diss these other channels or anything. Like I said, I like the channels. They're fine. But I disagree with them on picking apart this episode that hard. It just seemed to me like they were determined to hate it, and they found reasons to hate it. So, we'll see. We'll see. The Acolyte has been a very interesting ride. I look forward to it when it comes on. I'm like, oh well, this is gonna. I mean, this is a bit, you know, because like I said, I'm a Star Wars fan. I like Star Wars. I want to see it. I thought the fight scenes in this episode were good. We seen something I'd never seen in a fight scene in the Star Wars movie before, where the Chimera has one of the Jedi run through with the lightsaber, so the lightsaber's sticking out of the other Jedi about so far, and then Force pulls another Jedi onto the lightsaber that's sticking out. So now he's got like a Jedi kebab on his lightsaber. So that was cool. You know, it was different. One of the things they were picking apart too was the lightsabers constantly malfunctioning. There were there were multiple instances where the Jedi, their lightsabers stopped working, and they kind of had to shake them. And they compared it to shaking a flashlight where the battery's dying, and then the flashlight comes back on. Because that is kind of, I thought that was funny, because that is kind of what happened. But apparently, I've watched some other videos, and I've heard, and I've kind of looked, and I don't spend a lot of time on this. I do have a day job, but in my spare time, I kind of flip around, and I did find, because I haven't read all the lore. I don't know every canon out there of Star Wars. I know some, but, you know, and of course all the movies and stuff, but as far as all this expanded universe stuff, I don't know all of it. I've read Heir to the Empire a long time ago, those 3 books. It's where Mara Jade and all that comes into play, and that was good. I wish they'd have made the movies like that and just took off with it. That would have been cool. So I don't know everything about Star Wars, but there are people out there that study this more than I do. And apparently there's a material called cortosis or something like that, that when you use it when a lightsaber comes in contact with it, it causes it to malfunction temporarily. And they're speculating that that's what Chimera had. I guess in that helmet, he was able to. It was part of his defense mechanism, was when the lightsabers come in, if they do land a strike, it's going to knock their lightsaber out for a minute. So that actually, to me, I don't have a problem with that. That kind of makes it a little hey, this is something else the Jedi may have to think about down the road. So again, didn't have a problem with it, but the giant space cockroaches that carried him away at the end, some could argue it was kind of cheesy, and it kind of was, I guess, but I kind of got it too. You know, he was just swarmed by all these creatures, and he couldn't fight them off quick enough. Then they carried him off. I mean, he did wind up getting away from them, but they were able to carry him away long enough to for our heroes to escape. You know, again, just fun to watch. It's, you know, I like when people say that could never happen. Okay, there were no cockroach things, moths that big anyway. All this is make believe. You got to remember that. All this is make believe. So, how do we know there are giant moths from that planet couldn't pick you up and carry you off? They very well may be able to. We've never studied them. But I get why they thought it was kind of goofy, but to me, it was just fun. You know, it was fun to watch. The part at the end, again, spoilers, I guess, if you haven't figured that out by now. May switches positions with Osha, knocks Osha out, changes clothes with her, and May runs off with Soul. which means now May is in the care of, or Osha is now in the care of Chimere. And I would think both Soul and Chimere both should probably be able to figure out pretty quick this is not who they say they are. You know, of course, May, Osha, when she comes to, she's gonna be like, wait a minute, she's gonna tell that she's not May. Well, she may not, because she might be afraid Chimere will kill her. I don't know. But I would think as Jedi go, they would be pretty perceptive and realize that's not the right person. We'll see. So anyway, I don't plan on doing another one. I don't plan on doing. I would like to wrap this series up. I thought it would, it'd be kind of fun to wrap up once it's all said and done. Unless something crazy happens in the next one that's worth talking about all by itself. So we'll see. Would like to shout out to the girl that played Jackie, or Daphne, something or another is her name. Her fighting in the show, she did a really good job. I mean, the little Jedi, like she's like 5'2", and she's running around jacking up everybody. Which I was kind of glad to see, because I thought in the previous episode where it shows them at the Jedi Temple and they're practicing with the wooden staff and they're doing their routine. To me, I thought that looked too much like a dance routine rather than people training to fight. It looked more like a high school drill team twirling batons. It was just too pretty, I mean, they were very choreographed and they were carrying it out, but it didn't look like people training to fight. But in this episode, she was fighting. She was jacking people up. And, of course, Chimere stabs her 3 times with a lightsaber. And some have said that, in Disney Star Wars, that's what it takes to stab and kill somebody with a lightsaber. You got to stab them 3 times. Or slash them. Because a lot of people are surviving being run through with the lightsaber for some reason. Which brought me back, because I had recently watched Ahsoka again. And when... what's her name? Sabine. She got run through with a lightsaber and she survived. But it showed the injury. The mark was kind of way down low in her abdomen. But when it happened, looked like it was more direct hit. So, and then of course, the Grand Inquisitor and Kenobi survived one. Reva, she survived one. Darth Vader himself run her through. And at the end of episode 5 and then the beginning of episode 6, she was on the move. Nobody helped her. At least in Ahsoka, Sabine had medical attention immediately. Reva just got up, rubbed a little dirt on it, and took and went on about her business. So they got to quit doing dumb stuff like that in Disney Star Wars. When you get run through with a lightsaber, that's it. You're done. So if you don't want that character to die, don't run them through with a lightsaber. So anyway, we'll see. Hopefully, fingers crossed for next week is going to be another good episode, because we want good Star Wars to watch. That's why we love this. We love the franchise. We want good content. So Disney, listen to your fans. Don't take it as personal criticisms or just men being men. Listen to your fan base. I know they'll never watch this video, which that's fine. But it's out there. It's in the world. It's in the universe for them. Maybe they'll pick up on it. Maybe they'll use the Force and pick up on my wise words. And for the rest of us, don't get so angry about it either. I mean, if you don't like this, that's one show you don't like. Okay, fine. There's others. There's others out there that are good that we can watch. And there's probably going to be some more coming that will be. So anyway, let's tune in next week and see what happens. And everybody take it easy. Be good.